This is a rewind.
How
Right?
now, brown cow?
How now, brown cow? Unique, New York. Unique.
We're gonna talk about how hot Dua Lipa is.
This is episode 87 of Cowboy Shit. I'm Ted. He's Wasey. Welcome to Friday afternoon. And it's warm out.
This is the last show for me being recorded at my first ever downtown apartment.
Yeah.
I will be moving at the end of this weekend, and next time you guys see me, I'll be in my new spot, East Village. Here we come.
How much different should we expect, Wasey? Like, what's it going to look like in the new pad? You're going to have
it's going to be a bit
floor-to-ceiling windows. It's going to be pretty grand.
I'm going to clean it up a bit, tighten it up like a bit. Like it's kind of like my vibe that I have here right now is obviously single guy living in an apartment by himself. That's my vibe. So I'm going to try and like turn it up a bit, like get a bit more of like a modern style vibe. I'm gonna get I'm gonna get rid of a bunch of my random pieces of furniture that I have that don't really like go.
Okay.
But I don't know the first thing about interior design anyways. Like I've been to HomeSense like 6 times, so whatever.
I don't even know if HomeSense is interior design.
That place
might be like step one.
That's the most underrated store ever though. Like once you get to a place when you move it on your own and you need shit, like you can get anything you ever wanted that's really nice for a fraction of the price. Like I got a really nice set of like whiskey glasses for like $7.
That seems good.
And they have sweets. The art there, dude. Like this picture right back there. I got that at HomeSense. It's like $40, and it's like a sweet painting.
I can tell.
I'm pumped to put that one up in my next place.
It's gonna be sweet, man. I'm excited for you. You're moving. You bought a bike last night and threw it in at the house. But it's springtime in Alberta. But this is what they call fool's spring, though, isn't it? Like we're about to get some more snow. It's gonna be pretty crappy for a while. But at least
are we actually about to get some more snow? Is that just like
man, it's spring in Alberta. It might snow in May. We don't fucking know yet.
Yeah. I have a feeling I have a feeling that just gonna keep buzzing. I don't know. I've been buzzing all week, man. I'm feeling good. The weather's nice. We had a couple of patio sessions already.
It's true. It's true.
Oh man, we gotta talk about the shit that happened to us the other day on Wednesday. Or what day was yesterday? Thursday? When I went
have a cool story about being
yeah. So anyways, as you guys all know, we dropped some new merch this past week, and
on the 12th.
March. Yeah, and then so I was out. I was working from home on Thursday, and I just wanted to go have some lunch. And I've kind of been I got rid of all my groceries, so I don't really have anything to eat. So I was like, I wandered down to Lulu Bar, which is one of my favorite places, right on the corner from my place I'm currently at, and I'm wearing our new Space Cowboy sweatshirt. And it's pretty cool design. And I walk in, and the host of the door,
for a male to wear, but
no, not really. I think
it's really not actually.
Yeah, it's really not. It's sweet, dude.
It's forward. It's forward for a male to wear.
It depends who you are, though.
It's different. It's different.
It's sweet.
It's
sweet. Yeah, it's a sweet design. But anyways, so the host was like, "Oh, that's a really cool sweater." I'm like, "Yeah, thanks. It's our podcast, whatever." Then I go sit at the bar, and there's these two gals working at the bar, and they come up to me like, "Oh my god, like we love your sweater. Like it's so cool." And the one girl, she was like, I'll buy your tab if you give me your sweater." And I was like, "Oh, whatever." Like.
And it was like $20. You're like, I don't know, this isn't a very good deal.
And I didn't know what it was.
If you're like in for like $200, you'd be like, yeah, sure, here you go.
Yeah, it's a good deal. And then we got chatting some more, and she turned out she's from Saskatoon, and we had some mutual connections, which was kind of funny. And then I kind of made her a deal with her that she had to follow me, follow the podcast, post a photo with the sweatshirt, and then
she did with her dog,
and then listen to one episode of the show and tell her friends.
Yeah.
So she made me that deal, and I gave her the shirt off my back at the bar. I walked out of there. Lucky I had a t-shirt on under the sweater, else I'd have been.
It might have been awkward.
Just been wearing a vest with no shirt. Well, it was pretty cool, man. It's fun to just kind of spread like what we got going on and talk to some people who maybe would never have stumbled upon the show.
Yep.
And we made a new fan.
And her dog loves the sweater.
Dog loves the sweater, man. I received a few other DMs afterwards from people there who were sad they didn't get a sweater. So
and Wasey may or may not get to go on a date with one of them.
Oh man,
TBD. We'll see what happens.
Cut that part out, Sean.
We will see what happens.
But anyways, yeah, that was good. It's funny. It's fun
cool
to. It's cool. Yeah, it's cool to talk. I like talking to people about it. It's fun.
I was kind of surprised we didn't get more people asking us about the stuff when we were doing the photo shoot. But another funny story for those that didn't watch, we got shut down by the fuzz at the Stampede grounds.
You should be able to go back and check like a highlight. We may have highlighted the story at this point, but yeah, it's funny. I thought about this.
We forgot. We totally forgot.
Yeah, because we're like we talked about it that day. Like we're so used to having free reign at the Stampede grounds, so we just think nothing of it when it's time to go roll up there, and the person forgets that it's actually private property. And
yeah,
I thought the security guard who rolled up on us, for how quick he was driving, I thought we were gonna get in shit, but he was actually a really chill guy. So
it was great.
Worked out to be something really funny. So. That's good. Either way, we may not have got the content we wanted on the photo side of things, but we got some good behind the scenes content of us almost getting busted.
Yeah, and just for the record, we are not affiliated or sponsored by the Calgary Stampede in any way, shape, or format. Just for the legalities there, not associated, so everyone knows. So I better throw that out there, so we don't get any trouble. I don't want any more security showing up in my house. Then he cease and desist. I don't want to get foiped again, Wace.
They don't need getting foiped.
We don't need that.
Good. That ain't no good.
We don't need that.
Yeah, and then we also did a new a photo shoot for our new content or for our new merch. So be on the lookout for that. And
don't be afraid. New flicks might be already out by the time the show comes.
Yeah, I guess so. At that point, yeah. I think we got some really cool shots, and we're gonna have some really cool content to throw you guys' way. And
hopefully. There's a picture of Wasey in a tree. He's also the one you may have seen. He's by a slice of toast on a wall in Chinatown. Mm-hmm. That thing did not smell very good.
Man, the back alley, it's good. Whoa. Like if you could smell through a photo, the photo would get negative likes.
But I don't know if you could smell through the photos because
I know, but I'm just saying, hypothetically, if you could see a photo on Instagram and the smell of the location
of what's going on,
you would unfollow the person instantly.
Yeah,
it smelled so bad.
I don't think Covey photographed the street meat that was in the alley. I would be worried to go to that restaurant with what was brewing in the back alley there, what was going on. I hope they don't serve that to humans because that would be why people get sick at that restaurant because it was.
Yeah.
We could I couldn't even walk that far down that alleyway because it smells so damn bad.
Man, the things you got to do for content these days, you got to go to stinky places.
But good shoot. Thanks for being there, Wace. Thanks for helping organize it and getting it done. We're looking forward to the photos. And check out the new merch, cowboyshit.ca. Give it a look. See what you like. Check it out in the stores all the way from Manitoba to BC. We've sent a lot of merch out in the last little while here, and Canada Post comes on Fridays to the house to pick up. So if you got an order, it's probably on the way.
Get your shit
right now. Get your shit at cowboyshit.ca. Got anything else for the top waist, or we'll come back?
I think that's good for me, man. Well, all right. You should go into the interview. It's a banger one this week.
This is episode 87, Cowboy Shit with Ted and Wasey. Our interview with Randy Bernard after this. With over $1 billion in sponsorship sales to date, he was the CEO of the PBR from 1995 to 2010 and CEO of IndyCar from 2010 to 2012. A co-manager of Garth Brooks and the creator of RFD TV's The American, he's a visionary in Western sports and a man that we're proud to have on the show. Please welcome Randy Bernard.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate your time today to be here. We've had you on the list for a long time, but finally got things lined up to have the show today. But we'll just start off the 8th edition of The American. How to go on your end? Let's talk about that to start.
Well, I think for a COVID year, it was great. I mean, of course, we want to sell more than 15,000 tickets, but when the health department says that's what you can sell, and we're just thankful to be able to sell tickets. I think the governor of Texas was so accommodating, and Arlington was amazing. And Fort Worth was amazing for a semifinal. So for the most part, it was outstanding. The competition is just one of your favorite events of the entire year. First year we ever had that we didn't pay out the $1 million, that a qualifier didn't win it. I'll never forget 8 years ago, everybody was said, 9 years ago, they said, you know what? There's not going to be anyone beat these top guys in the world. And now look at it. 8 years into it, we've had 7 payoffs and one now that we haven't.
And that's going to go to next year, which it's a huge number for next year. $2 million. One person can come out of there with the biggest check ever one day in Western sports next year. It could be a $2 million winner.
Yeah, no doubt. What's exciting about that to me is that the entire event will pay over $3.4 million. And, that's what our dream was, to see this thing grow. So it'll be fun to see what happens. I anticipate a lot of entries this year. So it'll be a lot of competition, and I have a feeling someone will win it next year.
You've paid out over Hopefully, yeah, it could be a big one even after that. But you guys have paid over $20 million with the American overall, and it's one of the richest events. It's the richest one-day event in Western sports, and if you include next year at 3.4 million, the only thing that pays more than that is the PBR World Finals, which you also helped create at your time with the PBR and the NFR. It's the second biggest event overall and the richest in one day. And you guys have created it in the last, within the last decade. It's pretty impressive what's been done.
I think my favorite part of the American is, I love to say, it's where dreams come true, because it's going to change a cowboy's life forever, or a cowgirl. To me, that's what's the best part of it is, it's the only event in rodeo that you truly root on an underdog. When you go there, you might have your favorite cowboys or barrel racers that you want to watch, but all of a sudden it shifts when all of a sudden this qualifier is right up there competing with the best athletes in the world, and it has the opportunity to win that million. Everybody's heart moves over and wants to see that underdog win, and that to me is what I love the most about it. I'd also say that when we started this event, I'll never forget, I wanted to have this major breakfast in Omaha, Nebraska, at that circuit finals they had there. All the top cowboys in the world were there. I put out the biggest breakfast layout and spent a ton of money with PowerPoints and making sure everything was going to be first class, expecting like 100 cowboys. And I think there was 6 that walked in the room. That's all we had. And I was shocked that nobody wanted to learn about this. I mean, Trevor Brazil was there, and a few others. But like I said, nobody really believed it would happen. And at that point, we had one cowboy that just stood up in the meeting and said, "You know what? You're going to pay out $2 million, but what are you going to make?" And I'm like, wait a minute. I don't think there's a one-day rodeo in the world that you can win 50,000 at, and all of a sudden you're telling me it's all about me making money. And I'm like, well, I sat there and thought for a minute, and I said, I'll tell you what, if you want to be my partner, I'll let you have 50% of this, but you just have to pay 50% of our losses if there's a loss. And I said, I'll open my books. I'll show you what this thing's going to cost. And so that's pretty much what we did. And he was like, I'll pass. He was smart. He was smart.
well, let's just dive right into that too. I think you mentioned that it was Matt Reeves on a previous show. I was listening to one, and it was Matt, wasn't it?
I didn't want to be too mean on poor Matt. I didn't want to pick but I started to, and I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to pick on Matt.
but so let's get into it. There's a lot of speculation, I think, that's out there, and not everybody wants to ask the questions, I guess, really. But there's I read at one point 4,000 entries. It went from a couple thousand, and I think 4 was maybe one of the higher numbers on the actual entries for the qualifiers. So we can get into some more numbers that way. But like, if people really want to know, like, this thing, if you want to, what's the build up? Go and put dirt in AT&T Stadium. Like there's a lot of costs here. It doesn't matter what that side brings in. There's a pile of costs, and it wasn't a money making venture in year one, I'm assuming.
If I could be straight out honest, it hasn't been a money making event in the first 6 years.
Yeah.
So and someone showed me a Facebook thread where basically they're like, what's he doing with all this money and he's making off of the semifinals and all these entries? And I don't think people realize that it costs about $6.4 million to produce this event. And it's massively expensive. The AT&T Stadium has cost us over $1.2 million. And again, I mean, anybody that wants to be our partner, as long as they pay the past, loss of 50-50 with me, that wants to be our partner, they're more than welcome to be my partner. And in fairness, now this year here was probably our turnaround year. I don't think we've made money, but being it was a COVID year, I think we've been able to bring our expenses down quite a bit on the stadium. And I'm optimistic that next year will be our first really, really good year, and we'll need it. But I think for the most part, everybody just thinks that we're just pouring in the money, that we're just, and it's not. It's the reason we created these other things is to try. We lose $125,000 on our semifinals every year, and it's important to have. We have to have it, and it's part of the American, and it's just a very expensive event to produce, and I don't want to do it half-ass. I mean, everything we do first class.
Even that my first introduction was, I think one of the first times I ever met you was at the semifinals. I flew in. I was in Nicaragua the same week, and then I flew in and met Richard Jones there, and met you on after the perf one night. But I came in and saw a couple nights of the semifinals, and went back to Richard's place for a while, and then came down and saw the American the day after the PBR Iron Cowboy. I want to say it was in probably 2018, I think. So I got to see both of them, but I agree. I was completely impressed by the semifinals, and glad I got to come in and see it, because the competition, like you said, was first class. The production of the rodeo, somebody could come to that rodeo, that semifinals, and the production there rivals or is better than the average rodeo. It is better than the average rodeo that I'd ever seen down there. I'd put that up against the perf. Even looking at the perf at San Antonio, some of these other bigger rodeos, I didn't like the perf at San Antonio or Houston better than I like the semifinals, because the semifinals and the American is about rodeo. The rodeo is the first priority with these events that you're a part of. It's not the concert, or it's not the Alan Jackson afterwards at San Antonio. It was rodeo first at both of these, which I appreciated, and I think it's 100% by design too.
That's one of the biggest things I believe in is the way you make stars is you showcase your sport in the best way you can, and not with bringing entertainment in. Entertainment, if you go to Houston, 70% of your stadium is empty until the concert starts, and that's not what we're about. We know we have amazing fans out there, and we know we can sell enough tickets to make this work. Everything we try to do is develop and build stars, and it's very important to us.
Has that been accomplished over the years with that? Have you achieved the growth within the sport to justify keep putting on the event at the losses?
No, it's going to happen eventually. It's one of those tipping points where it's just going to happen. You look at the bad luck we had. The first year was 70 degrees on Saturday. We had 4 inches of ice the first Sunday. We lost a ton of people that couldn't come. We had to give refunds to. And then the next year we had another ice storm. This year we had COVID. So, it hasn't been the best. But do we believe that it's going to get better? It is. It's going to grow. It's just like the PBR. It took us 8 or 9 years before PBR became really grew into what we anticipated it to be.
Let's talk about how it came to be. I was listening to these other shows, doing the research. I was curious more about how it actually came to be. Jerry Jones was a partner with the PBR. The first event there would have been 2010 when Colby Yates won the 50,000 at AT&T. Is that right, or am I remembering wrong? I think that was one of the big first PBR events there was.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yes.
So that was
2000. I want to say it was 2008.
2008. Okay. So you make the deal with Jerry Jones to go there with the PBR?
No, I'm sorry. It wasn't. You're right. 2010. It was 2010.
2010. Because it was Colby Yates, because he was like a last-minute alternate, shows up and wins the whole thing for the 50,000. Mm-hmm. That was
It was my last event before I went on to be CEO of IndyCar, so it was 2010.
Okay. So that was the year. So you make the deal with Jerry to come there with the PBR, and then later on you go back with the American. But how did the PBR first get to go to AT&T, and then let's talk about the American and the origin story there.
Well, John Hickman, who is a very close friend of mine, who's been with the Cowboys for over 30 years, said, you need to get down here and meet Jerry Jones. Jerry wants to meet you. And so we did, and I flew down there, and Jerry took me out onto the practice field. It was not in Frisco, it was the old practice place, and him and I sat out there for about an hour and a half. Bill Parcells was the coach. I'll never forget it. I had my cowboy hat on, and he did not like me being out there on the field. He felt like I was like, I don't know if he thought I was a spy or what I was, but it was, I mean, I'm sitting there talking to Jerry Jones and he just didn't care. And then I believe Jerry or John introduced me, and he warmed up a little, but not too much. Yeah, and Jerry goes, I want a PBR when we get this new stadium built. It's going to be that must have been 2007, 2006, because he goes, you could either do it in our old stadium or wait 2 or 3 years until our new one's done. And I said, let's wait. I said, I think it's real important that we have this new stadium to have it. And so that's what we did. He goes, I'll let you pick your date. So I love that weekend. I think it's one of the best weekends of the year to have an event. So that's what we did. And it was a great success. Jerry Jones came back to me and said, listen, I want a rodeo. I go, Jerry, I can't really do that. I'm only, I'm PBR only. And after that, I said that we would, I said, maybe some other time when I was still at PBR, I said, maybe after this. Well, Jerry had a meeting, a Super Bowl owners meeting in Indianapolis because the Super Bowl was going to be there. And so him and I went to dinner at Ruth Chris one night, and he asked me again. I said, now I'm the CEO of IndyCar. I can't do it. So we couldn't do it then. And then when I went to become the CEO of RFD, it made perfect sense for me. I'm like, oh my God, this is great. So I flew down, met with him. He's like, I just want it big. I'm like, well, Houston Rodeo puts up 1.8 million for 18 days or 21 days. I said, what if we put up 2 million for 1 day? And he's like, I love it. Let's do it. So that's how it happened.
Did the format come after the theory or the pitch for the event, or was the format in your head for a long time to do something like this? Or did that come after?
No, I had the format designed when I was at the PBR. I had several different formats designed when I was at PBR. I wanted this one PBR event, and the board
shot it down.
Didn't like it, and I still love to do it. It was called Texas versus the World, and I wanted to do it at the Alamo Dome. Back when the Alamo Dome, in San Antonio, the Alamo. I'm like, let's have this Texas versus all the Texas Cowboys on one team, and the rest of the world take them on another team. And that's when Texas had all the good Cowboys. We had Adriano and some great Brazilian. We had some great Cowboys, Michael Gaffney from New Mexico. But I just think it would have been a major, fun, fantastic event. It never did happen.
Huh. No saying that couldn't still. Because another question I'd wrote down was it's kind of yes or no, but I think there's a lot more to it with asking, is the American the pinnacle of your event career? Or I saw something you mentioned as well about the Patriot in Chicago on Independence Day. But what are your thoughts on that? I want to know.
Well, now that, I don't know if I'd call it the Patriot now since someone else brought that event into Texas, but I've produced right at 4,000 events in my life. And so I really believe that out of all those, from Indy 500s to PBRs, and I've been to 5 Super Bowls or 3 or 4, actually, I don't know, 4 Super Bowls. I've been to Mike Tyson fights. I'd never seen and felt the energy like I did at the American. And I think it's because the pressure, the drama that was evolving on one day. And you had most of these guys making, 30, 40, at the most 30,000 a day. All of a sudden they're getting to compete for $1 million. It just created this great drama. We had great storylines, and it just worked out real well.
Well, in the first year, you couldn't have wrote it any better with Richmond winning $1.1 million at the very first one in 2014. For Richmond champion to come in and be a virtual unknown in the whole business and then do that.
Well, look what it's done for his career now too. He's exploded. He's one of the most well-known rodeo athletes in the world, I would say.
Off that, that's one star that you guys definitely built at the American.
Did you apply any of your IndyCar experience to the framework for the American?
Not really. I think they're different sports. I think IndyCar was an amazing sport, but it was such an intense and it was more international, then I think the one thing I learned was what you don't do opposed to what you do from IndyCar. I think, they had gone through a major, 15 years that was just absolutely plagued with issues. And when there was that split, so I think that we learned a tremendous amount from that. But nothing really into the American.
The one of the other pieces on the rodeo side of things, and I'm curious. You produced the openings at the NFR. You've since said you're not going to do that again. That's not something you want to do again next year, correct?
Never.
So speaking of that on the rodeo side of things, though, one of the quotes that I pulled earlier was that rodeo cannot run as an association. You cannot run a rodeo association as a club. It has to be run as a business, sport, and most importantly, entertainment. Those three things are the most important ingredients in a company. Where are we at with rodeo right now overall? I think one of the biggest issues, and we've talked about it tons on this, but I want to get your take on it, is that rodeos are not the same product everywhere we go. We go to a rodeo and, like we're talking about San Antonio, Houston, they're all a different format. They're a different show, where with the PBR now, it's a consistent show. There might be a different format, whether it be Iron Cowboy or the Last Cowboy Standing or whichever that is. But with rodeo, it's different everywhere. It's not like a company like McDonald's where you get the same product everywhere you go. What's next on that side of things? I know you're working with George Taylor in on that way with the NFR that way, but you're working with him. So I want to know what's next. What's this next move?
So first, my role at the NFR was very small, but I felt very privileged, and I was honored that they asked me to be able to produce the openings. I absolutely love doing it, but it does take a lot of time. And managing Garth is, because of COVID, I had the opportunity with the extra time. Let this be fun, and I'm like, I don't need to make money on this. I just want to have fun with it. And so everything I do in my life, it's about passion. And I never charged anyone a dime for it. I think our openings were very patriotic. And I thought that for the most part we didn't have the right type of lighting, or we didn't have the right sound, or we couldn't create a dark house completely. There was some issues, but for the most part, they turned out pretty well. I thought they turned out better for TV than they did for the live event, which is great because we had, 1 million people per episode, per night watching. But on that front, back to your question, where do I see the sport? I'm a big believer that the one thing that made the PBR great, and what makes the NFL great, and the Major League Baseball and the NBA, is you're showcasing the best athletes in the world with every single one of those sports. And that's the reason why the Continental League of basketball didn't make it. That's the reason that the Vince McMahon's football league, XFL, didn't make it. If you don't have the best athletes and you're not showcasing the best in the world, people see through it. And I think that's what, there's 10 different bull riding organizations out there, but none of them can say they have the best bull riders in the world. I mean, PRC could say that because they have a very quality. So I'm not trying to throw anything on the bus. I think we did a phenomenal job of marketing it as the best Cowboys and the best bulls in the world. And I think that's what the PRC, and I hope the Cowboy channel focuses on, is not just showcasing small rodeos and dilute everything. I think you need to showcase the best Cowboys in the world at the biggest rodeos in the world, and really do the sport justice in seeing the type of athlete we have in our sport. And that's not just, these horses are amazing. So, I mean, that's would be my goal. If I could tell them one thing is let's not waste the time on the smaller rodeos. Let's spend more time on the big rodeos and do them right.
Do you think that the Cowboy channel is going to make it harder for rodeo to reach like new fans? Just as like when it's not like, say when the NFR was on CBS Sport Network, like you get the casual people who would show up on a national network. Whereas now I feel like you have to seek it out more if you're not a rodeo fan. It's like it's harder to stumble upon a rodeo like the American or something.
If you look at the ratings from this year, that would prove that theory wrong.
Okay.
I believe it was 100% more people this year watched the Cowboy channel than what watched CBS Sports.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, it was massive. And if you take any niche sport, and you have to call rodeo niche because it isn't mainstream. If you looked at NASCAR when it was a niche sport, just on TNN on cable, before 1978, before it hit its big CBS event, what you saw was you were building a base. And I think that's what rodeo has to do. They have to build that base. And the more people, it will snowball. If people love it and it's quality stuff, people are going to come to it. That's a guarantee. But you have to be able to connect with America and culture. And then once you do, it will take off. And I think, NASCAR is very regionalized back then. It was a sport for the South, but it's come a long ways.
The Cowboy channel, well, first of all, we love the openings. I was a huge fan of all the openings this year, especially the Canadian one. Thanks for getting Brett Kissel involved. That was super cool to see Brett down there. It was a total surprise. I didn't even know it was happening, and he even said it was a surprise. You called him on a Sunday, asked if he'd get down there Thursday. That was a pretty neat story to hear that way. But big fans of the opening. It was the first time anything had been different from the NFR standpoint that I'd seen. And I've been there the last 10 years, and it probably hadn't changed much before that either.
Oh, I love Brett Kissel. I think he's got an amazing voice. He's one of the best guys in the whole world. And it was great to have him come down and participate. And, and Wayne Vold's been amazing doing it. I didn't like to take away from any tradition, but I felt that by having the entertainer of the year of Canada come down for the Canadian national anthem, it's important, and I think that it showcased your sport in a great way, and that was very important for us to do. I think all of our openings that we did, we tried to hit some type of not only patriotism but emotion. I mean, you have to tap into people's emotion, and I think we just came off of a miserable year of politics, and I think everybody was sick and tired of it and fed up with it. And you know what, whether you're Republican or Democrat, we're still American. And there's no sport, there's no lifestyle like the Western lifestyle. There's no culture like our Western culture that bleeds red, white, and blue. And we do stand every time. And that was very important. And we do respect our friends on the north border. We love Canada. I did my internship at the Calgary Stampede in 1988. And absolutely fell in love with it. To me, one of the most, oh my gosh, it changed my life. If it hadn't been for the Calgary Stampede, I wouldn't be sitting where I am right now. They were amazing to me. They worked me into all 38 of their managers, and it was just a blessing that I had that opportunity to go up there and do that.
Going back to the Cowboy channel, Wasey, and to your point, I was kind of on the similar fence wondering that. But one thing I have to point out to all of us rodeo fans that have tried to watch NFR for the past few years, we couldn't get it in Canada. It's not on TV. It's not here. It's not there. It was every time we were going into the finals, it was like, where do we watch it? How do we find it here? You got to pay for this. You got to do that. You can buy it from some pirated online website, right? But this year it was cowboychannel.com, pay your $80 or $90 or whatever it was, and you watch it live and every night, and you saw the whole show. There was no messing around. It was the first time in my memory where it was very clear and very easy to find and very easy to watch. So I huge kudos for making that happen to everybody involved.
Well, I think Patrick Gotch gets all the credit on that. Patrick is a huge believer in the Cowboy channel and rodeo, and the Cowboy channel, it's brand new. People don't realize it's 2 years old, and he's bit off a lot for a small 2-year-old television network. But what he's been able to pull off in the last 2 years has been amazing. And I can promise you that he's pouring a heck of a lot more money into this network than he's getting out of it. But he believes in it. He loves it. And I got to give him tremendous credit for tackling this, because it's a major deal.
Major deal and major opportunity for us to get through the winter right now. I know I've had a lot of folks say they've loved it this winter, being able to watch all these rodeos, and they can tune on the TV, and instead of watching something random, they can actually watch rodeo. So that's been a huge benefit. Going back to the rodeo side of things and the formats, I wanted to speak to that and ask one more question on the PRCA front. And I don't know how much we can get into this or what it might look like, but in Canada, there have been no rodeos in the past, over a year now, because of in my opinion, I think it's because of the CPRA. They're not structured in a way that allows them to even have a reason to put on rodeos, because they don't put on rodeos. They're in the business of administering and sanctioning and taking the entries. They're not in the rodeo business or entertainment business. They're just in the sanctioning business. Is this something that needs to change? Like, is the PRC even the entity that can showcase these athletes at these big shows, or is that be something else to go and do it? I get a little frustrated sometimes because I think, like, what is the solution? I don't know what it is. I'm stumped at times.
Well, I guess it's easy for me and you probably to be armchair quarterbacks, but what I would say on that is, when I looked at the PBR, we were a sanctioned body too, just at the beginning. We had 8 events, we sanctioned them. And what we found real quick was we had no control over it. We'd show up and we'd see brass bands, and we should see all this BS that we just didn't want to see. And so, we were always surprised. Oh, there's going to be a conflicting sponsorship, or conflicting sponsor. There's going to be, every time we found surprises, and we just kept taking control until we owned 100% of everything: advertising, marketing, every event. And if you didn't want to run the event, and by the time we got that big and we were producing enough of them, the ones that we did keep with promoters, it was either do it our way or the highway. We weren't going to sit back. We knew what our demographic was. We knew what they wanted. We knew how they wanted it, and we weren't going to allow anyone to make mess that up for us. And when we took that control, I took a lot of heat from a lot of promoters. I was a no good guy, but for the most part, looking back on it, if we hadn't, it would never have grown. And I do think that these, as an armchair quarterback, I'm not sitting in his office, so it's unfair for me to say that he's not doing the right thing. But what I can say is, the more control you have on it, the more control you have of your destiny. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I want to ask on the sponsorship side of things, what are the most valuable assets? This is something you've sold $1 billion with the sponsorship. I think you mentioned that on Flint's show. I don't think that's a number that's hardly even been mentioned in Western sports, hardly at all. But I wanted to ask what you think the most valuable assets in Western sports are on the sponsorship front. I think I might have an idea of it, but I'm curious what you're thinking on that side. Well,
I had an amazing sponsorship team, so a lot of it they sold, but I oversaw $1 billion. I always made sure I was available to go to those meetings and help sell those through. But I think what we've seen sponsorships evolve from back in when we started PBR, signage was very important. You saw NASCAR where it just become a cluttered billboard. You go to Times Square, it was a cluttered billboard, and I think it was very important to see what these companies have transitioned to now that they're social media. They just didn't go and say, oh, we need X amount more dollars. What they said was, listen, we're going to have to take some of it from sponsorship, some of it for advertising, and create the social media, because it's very important, and that's where we're going to reach a younger demo. And so I think today we have such a different event, a sponsorship than you do back then. I think you have to incorporate your app, you have to your OTT play, you have to have a signage component. But the most important part of any sponsorship today is where they can actually develop some type of structure where they can actually see results, because that's the most important thing for these sponsors today. If you can't show them that they spent, they got a 5-to-1 return on their investment, or a 2-to-1, or if you can't prove to them, it's hard to keep sponsorships today. And you probably have your CMOs of your companies. Back when I was at PBR, I read an article that a lot of CMOs, their turnover was about 6 years. So you always have an influx, and you're always changing. So you always had to always update and increase and keep your sanctioning body or your sport growing.
What have been some of your most successful partnerships you've built on that front?
My favorite probably was working with the CEO of Verizon, Dan Mead, and his team, and Lowell McAdams, who was the chairman at the time. I think that they truly got it. And this was at IndyCar. They basically said, listen, your sport is about speed, technology, and integrity. So let's try to develop a sponsorship around those three assets. And we dealt with all their technology. Like they walked us into this room somewhere on the East Coast. I want to say it was Philadelphia, where it was just basically looking into the future, what we're going to see. It was all their like scientists and technologists that were sitting in this room developing things that we're not going to see for 10 years. And it was just amazing to see. And I think that was really fun. That was an amazing sponsorship and a massive sponsorship. I loved Apex Brazil was another great one where we worked with Apex Brazil and President Dilma on developing a place where Brazil would bring their biggest corporate companies up and introduce them to American companies of the same business, and they would take them to races where they could spend 8-10 hours. So it allowed Brazil to drive sales up in the United States, but at the same time, it was helping Americans companies selling more product down in Brazil. It was a brilliant thing to do, and it was a massive deal for us and Apex Brazil.
Wasey, you had a question about the early years in the PBR and Randy becoming the CEO at like 28.
Yeah, I'm just so interested in your path, like that, like I'm 28 right now, and just thinking about taking over a company like that, kind of in its early stages. Like, did you like encounter a lot of challenges that way, or were you comfortable taking on that role? Like, I'm so curious on that.
Well, at 28, you feel invincible.
That's true. That's true.
I think the older I get, the more I know I don't know. And back then I thought I knew everything. Yeah. So I didn't really, I was just gun ho to do it. I was excited, and I like to have $1 for every mistake we made, but I'd like to have another $1 for every time we fixed it and made it better. Because there wasn't anything that we did that we didn't. We'd move away from things, but a lot of times we learned from our mistakes. And back I started, I was the only employee, and we had Doug Quimby as our attorney, and he was our secretary as well. I did tickets. I did every single thing in that office: sponsorships, media sales, promotion. When you have to do everything, you learn it, and you learn it really well. I wasn't going to be fooled. When you bring someone in and they're not doing their job. I think the other thing that was really important for me that I realized is that I paint with a broad brush. I wasn't into detail. So everyone I put around me was very detail oriented. And I think that was very important. I think that, I read what Rick, Success is a Choice was the name of the book.
Yeah. And I forget who the author is now.
Rick Pitino. And in that book, he said, hire people with a PhD, and that stood for passion, hunger, and drive. And I resonated with me so well. I went to my HR and said, this is brilliant. I said, you know what? I could care less what degree they have. If I want that PhD, most importantly, if they came from the Army and didn't have a background or a educational background, I didn't care. They were hard workers. I wanted people that worked hard, loved what they did, and did it because of the love of it. And there's many times I'd walk into a meeting and I'd just say, guys, if you're not happy being here, go do what you love. If it's being a fisherman, go be a best fisherman you can and do what you love. Life's too short to do something you don't want to be. And we took that very, very seriously at the PBR. And I think that really showcased really well.
I've got to ask, what's your proudest moment in the PBR and your time there from 28 to basically when you were 43 and selling it in 2010? Was it that sale and getting to call those guys? Was that one of the crowning achievements, or what was it?
Selling was definitely the crown, because everyone, it was started with $1,000 each. And when you call people and say, I've got good news and bad news. And my first call was Daryl Mills, who was Canadian, of course.
Yeah.
And Pink Mountain, British Columbia. And I said, Daryl, good news and bad news. And he goes, what's the bad news? And I said, well, the bad news is we're selling the PBR. And he goes, well, are we going to make a couple $100,000? I said, well, that's the good news. You're going to make a minimum of $4.1 million after tax. And it was just like this. And I heard this, honey, get the Jack Daniels out. We're going to dance all night long. I think there was some profanity in there. I'm cleaning it up. But it was, and it was just amazing to change lives. And I mean, most of the Cowboys were so emotional because, that was their dream when they started it. I think that, and to me, that's going to be one of my favorite. I think my other favorite memory looking back, which I don't really look back much. I don't believe in it, but would have to be when we had our first, when
Chris,
when we were paying the $230,000 was our total payout at the World Finals, and when we took it to $1 million, because the massive fight that we had with the MGM is not going to happen. It's BS. We walked away from them. I mean, the amount of pressure, because we didn't have any other deals, and we were playing poker a little bit. We were bluffing just a hair. I learned a valuable lesson. I didn't never bluff much after that because it was so, if it had gone the wrong way, it would have been terrible. And Alan Jacoby, who just passed away recently, who I just had so much respect for, he called me and said, "Listen, I don't know who's your person that's got this $1 million, but if you need a guinea pig," he goes, "I'll be him." So that's who I used. Alan Jacoby was the one that was going to give me $1 million to take the finals to Arizona, but I wasn't too sure he could do it, and I don't think he was. So I was really happy when MGM came back and said, "We'll end up doing it." And it was a life-changing moment for the sport, because all of a sudden now, we were selling out. I mean, it did wonders for our tickets, and it truly made us the credible sport that moved us into the next level.
Okay, being a couple of Canadian guys, we're really curious if the sale to Spire was when you met Wayne Gretzky, or did you already know him, or how do you know Wayne? He's like a hero up here. You're buddies.
God, I love Wayne Gretzky. I met Wayne, somewhere around that time. I don't know if that was when I did. For some reason, I want to say I'd met him prior with Darren Blake, but we definitely became very, very close. And I went to a lot of Phoenix Cody hockey games when he was GM. I was in Canada 1988 at Calgary when him and Janet got married. And when he moved to California, and it was like, I'll never forget watching so many people cry from Edmonton. Calgary was partying up a storm, like, yes,
he's gone.
We got a chance. And Edmonton is just bawling. You've seen all these people bawling on TV, and I'm like, oh my God, who is this guy? and then all of a sudden you become great friends with him, and it's just been an amazing friendship, and I love him to death.
What's your best Wayne Gretzky story?
Oh, I have so many of them. Oh my gosh. Some of them I can't tell. They were around drinking. But when he comes to when the Oilers play in Nashville, he always comes in to the games, and we'll sit and hang out, and it's a lot of fun. But I have this little private club downtown. I took him to one time, and what was crazy is we were sitting in here having dinner, and our waitress goes, Mr. Gretzky, my grandmother was your third grade school teacher. And he goes, absolutely no way. And he said her name, and she goes, that's my grandma. And it was like so funny. I thought it was, what a small world.
That's
so
great.
They had to, I think they even tried to call her or something like that. It was kind of fun.
No way.
But we I took, Garth never had the opportunity to meet him, and he goes, I'd love to meet him sometime. And we were playing in Edmonton, and so he goes, hey, why don't you call Wayne, see if he wants to go up with us? And Wayne was playing a golf tournament down in Florida. He goes, hell yeah, I want to go up there. So I took Garth's plane down, picked him up, and we came back and we stayed at my house that night. And then all of us went up to Edmonton, Garth and Tricia and Wayne and I the next day. And that was pretty fun. When you got off the plane in Canada, in Edmonton with Tricia Yearwood, Garth Brooks, and Wayne Gretzky, I think I was the only one that they checked on my passport.
That's quite the entourage.
They didn't roll out the red carpet. I don't even think they even checked theirs. I was kind of offended.
Oh man, we only got a couple minutes here left. I got two more things I want to ask.
I got one burning question I got to ask.
Hey, go ahead, Wade.
I kind of want to jump back towards your path and just kind of ask, like, what is your biggest piece of advice you could give to somebody, like, say in my position, who's like just starting off their career and like would love to be involved in the industry or whatever? Like, what piece of advice would you offer to that person?
Don't be afraid to start at the lowest position and work up. I don't care if you have a degree. You know what? When you're passionate and you love what you do, it shows through. And I think as long as you're willing to work hard and grow, it never goes unnoticed. And sometimes you have to wait for that opportunity to come, but it's going to come, and it's worth waiting for. And I mean, you know, I dreamed big, but I was willing to work hard. And I think looking back on my life, I would say that I know there's millions of people smarter than me, but I'd like to think that my work ethic is in the top 1% of anyone in the world. And that's one thing that gives me my feeling is the advantage. And I'm not afraid to work. I start at 6 a.m. in the morning, and I'll go to 1 or 2 in the morning and have no problem with it. And because I love what I do. And I think that's what the most important part of this is. I didn't care about money in the early years. And, you know, the money came eventually, but it wasn't important to me at first. The most important thing was to set myself up and do what I love to do the most.
So working with Garth, this leads into that. Well, what do you love so much about working with Garth? What does the day-to-day look like? What are you passionate about now? What are your current goals? What about that?
First of all, no one's more passionate about music and about life and about entertaining than him. He views performing like eating ice cream. He just can't wait to do it. But you know, Garth Brooks is the most kind, humble, appreciative, loving human being on this earth. And he, in 8 years of being his co-manager, the first 8 months I lived out with them. And, you know, it was such a treat to be able to see someone that truly, you know, if you're with them 2 or 3 weeks, you can fool somebody. But when you live with them 8 months, you really see who they are. Garth Brooks is who he is. And he's just so humble and loving. And I've just never been out. I mean, it was a blessing when I went to work for him, because I should be paying him. He shouldn't pay me, because it's just an amazing opportunity. And his attitude just is one of the best I've ever seen in my life. I mean, when the pressure really gets heated, he gets more calm, and it's really a treat and an honor to work for someone like that. He's changed my life to the better. And I think I've learned so much from him, just about humility and humbleness and how he treats people is just it's rare to see someone that kind and giving.
You guys have to be busy planning big shows right now with everything opening up. It's got to be getting back on that right now. It's gonna be priority number one.
Yeah, we hope that we are back by June. I think for sure by July at 100% capacities. Garth, he's going to do major stadiums, and you know, we're placed stadiums from 80 to 105,000 people. And we're just thrilled and excited to hopefully get back to work. I mean, you know, that one thing about the entertainment world, it shut down, and nobody's been able to make money at it, very little at least. And, you know, thankfully I'm with Garth, but I think there's a lot of these other acts that are really struggling right now. And it's going to be great for everybody to see everybody go back to work.
I got to say, the most fun I ever had at a concert was Garth's show here in Calgary in 2012. It was so great that Sean Morton and I both woke up in the front seat. Like he was in the passenger seat, I was in the driver's seat of my car at the Ranchman's in the parking lot. I don't think he even made it inside. We went there afterwards, but we had quite the time. That's my best Garth Brooks memory from one of his shows.
He's the greatest entertainer of all time. There's no question. I mean, so many people will say, I had the worst seats in the world. I was up on the top balcony. I felt he was talking to me. And I hear that so much. And it was just amazing, his connection with people. I don't care if it's his one-man show or his full band. And, you think you would lose the
passion and drive.
No,
the allure almost.
Being at a 16,000 seat arena and going to a 100,000 seat arena, you lose the
intimacy,
the romance of how small it is, and how cool it is. But I think my favorite show is the stadiums. It's just amazing, and every person there knows every song, and it's just, it is just so fun to hear everybody screaming all those words.
What's your favorite Garth Brooks song?
The Dance.
The Dance. Mine's That Summer. That song rips.
That Summer?
Yeah, it's so good.
That's a great song. There's so many great songs.
Yeah.
All of them.
But I think The Dance just means so much to me. I just love it. And it's, it's my favorite. But look at Friends in Low Places. There's so many great songs.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. What are your current goals? I've heard about that before in different things. What are your current goals? How do you keep changing those every day to keep things going?
Well, I think the last year has been pretty challenging because I felt for the first time in my entire life, there was times that I just felt that I told my girlfriend, I said, I just don't feel like I have that spring in my step. I just felt so, that I wasn't staying busy enough. And now that everything's coming back and we're busy again, I just feel like it's been a lot of fun to get back going. But my goals would be, I think moving forward is I want to do something bigger in the Western lifestyle space again. So I'm talking to them about what we can do, to some friends and some associates, and if we pull it off, it could be one of the biggest things that's ever happened in the Western lifestyle. So we'll see.
How do you one up the American? What is that? Yeah. What else can you tell us about that?
Hot item. Breaking news.
I hope that within the next couple months we have bigger news for it. So, so it'd be fun. It's big though. It's big.
Dang, I don't even know how to make it bigger. I can't even imagine this stuff. I want to be inside your mind to know what are you thinking about. What are, like, even this Texas versus the world. You have that idea in the works. You probably were the one behind. I don't know this for sure, but you're behind. You had to be behind Iron Cowboy and Last Cowboy Standing. Like, what other formats do you have besides the American? Like, how else do you make this thing more entertaining?
I wasn't behind those. I think Sean Gleason's, I give him credit on those two events. Well, I think, just as a teaser, I think the Western lifestyle space is very fragmented, and I think there's some fun things that you can do to help create new synergies and new content that helps drive interest from other disciplines of the Western sports. And so I think, when you break it all down and you create this business plan, I think this will be a very expensive, but I think it'll be a very rewarding for the entire Western space. And I'm a major believer that all boats rise on a high tide. So everything we can do to help grow the sport helps everybody in the industry.
Well, whatever, however we can be in, we're in. We want to see it happen too.
Right. I'm so intrigued with this. It seems this is a cool idea.
Yeah, we're in 100%.
I like that.
We can do cowboy shit live. We can be the roadies. I'll pack some cables. I don't know.
Whatever you need. Set up panels. At the bottom.
We're in. Yeah.
I'll be a mascot if I have to. I've done it already once at the Calgary Stampede. So
consider it done. Right.
Wait, so you got one question? We got a few minutes. That's it.
Yeah. This is just to say before we wrap up here. Like, this has been so awesome, Randy. It's been fun to pick your brain and kind of hear how you think. It's been great. But to wrap things up, what is your definition of cowboy shit?
You know what? I think these type of shows just educate people about the Western lifestyle and do it in a fun way. And I think that's what's I think it's great. And I mean, that's why I love doing these is I don't think very many people really care what I have to say about me personally, but I think it's fun to talk about the sport and the Western lifestyle. And it's all my opinion. It doesn't mean it's me, but it's entertaining. Hopefully it's entertaining, and you guys do a great job with it. So thank you.
Well, thanks for your time. Thanks for doing this today. I've been excited about this for a long time. I'm all sweaty. I was nervous. I want to make sure I get it right. Screwed up the intro. I appreciate the heck out of it. Thanks for your time today.
Yeah, this has been great.
You guys.
Yeah.
I hope to do it again sometime.
Oh, we will. We'll put you in when you make this big announcement, whatever it is. We're very intrigued.
You get Wayne back on the show with me next time.
Yeah, deal. That'd be 100%. Okay. Thank you, Randy.
All right, you bet. Bye-bye.
Thanks again to Randy Bernard for being on episode 87. This is Cowboy Shit with Ted and Wasey. What a chat that was. We actually we missed it the first time around. We were waiting around for like 20 minutes, but he turns out like I already had like called it off and like, well, shit, I guess it didn't work out. And kind of sometimes I'll check in with people and sometimes not, but usually if we put something in the calendar, it's just kind of like, just show up and everybody shows up on time and it pretty much works out, especially with these way Google works and everything now. But like, I don't know what happened, but anyways, I think he texted me before he took off in a plane. We didn't even ask him where he's come from. Probably come back from the American. But he texted us before he took off. He's like, hey, can we push it back an hour? But I didn't get that until he already landed. And I was already like on the way to go pick up stuff from Bill by the time I got the text. And I was like, oh shit, well, I guess today's road off now. So I'll have to do it another time. But I kind of felt bad that we got like, I was like, sorry, Wes, I guess we got stood up again.
Some miscommunicado.
The only other guy to get to stand up so far was Justin McKee. Didn't quite work out to get him on the show, but I might not have had that planned enough well yet. I don't know, whatever. But like
people get stuff comes up, people get busy, so it's understandable for sure.
Well, but he was on a plane and it was circling and it couldn't land, so the text didn't go out first off, and whatever. We got it done anyway. So it was
the shit happens, dude.
Yeah,
but I'm glad we did get it done, man, for this next show, because it was such a fun like conversation. Like for me, like it's so cool to talk to people who don't have like that traditional like inside the box thinking with rodeo. Like he really like approaches it with like an outside the box and a different approach than most people, and it's so cool and refreshing to talk to people, because like you and I think along those lines the same way. Like we don't really approach the sport with like a inside the box traditionalist mentality. That we try to think of different ways to improve, and I think rodeo really needs to start looking outside the box on that front.
It was what he said about we could armchair quarterback it as much as we wanted to and talk about what might work and whatnot. But it was interesting, even the points about rodeo, like about my experience with going to Houston and San Antonio, where the entertainment feature is the music, where with the PBR, with what he did, was the feature was the PBR, which is what it should be if we're making this thing a sport and making it that way. But it's not thought of that way in a lot of circles and a lot of what's going on, right? But yeah, man.
And he's not scared to think big about it, right? Like when you talk, he teased that the biggest event ever, like something bigger than the American. It's hard to even like imagine an event bigger than the American. So I think that having people like him involved,
what's going on?
Yeah, it's good that we have people like him involved, because I don't think we'd see the growth that we've seen. And I'm not saying it's been crazy growth, but like it's been like these bigger events are happening and more eyes are getting on rodeo. So thanks to people like that.
I enjoyed the chat, and I enjoyed the conversation. I had listened to probably 3 or 4 shows that he'd already done. Like he did one with Flint and did one with a couple other guys that I had researched. I found a few other episodes he'd been on. One was like I don't know what they were, but anyways, it was mostly and nothing against anybody what they did, but it was mostly a history and different stories along the way, where I wanted to make this one as different as I could from those ones and ask him different questions that would get us a different line of answers and different content than what people have already heard. So you might have listened to other shows with Randy, and I'm hoping what you just listened to was different than those other shows, because I wanted to make sure that it was more. I wanted to try and make it different. I didn't want us to be the same thing as everybody else and ask like, when did you start the PBR? When did you do this? What, tell us these stories from back then. It would have been interesting to learn more about what happened with the break with Tough Heedman when he went out. That was one thing I wish I would have asked. Maybe we can do it next time. Another one was how the hell he let Tough Cooper come back to the American after he organized cheating the first year with who was it? It was in the tie-down roping. They like colluded together to make this other guy win the $1 million, and then they all split it afterwards, allegedly. So there was like, I wanted to ask him like, how do you let Tough Cooper come back after he freaking rigs the draw so they can split the $1 million?
Well, maybe that. But was that ever confirmed though?
I don't know. I think it was all settled outside of court. I don't know if it ever went to court, but I mean, some speculation on what went down. How do you let a guy like that? How do you let a guy like that allegedly may have changed the rules?
Well, maybe it got to the point where that was fake news. Who knows?
We're just speculating on what went down. But some interesting stuff to maybe talk about next time when we talk to him with Wayne, the great one.
Wanye, that'd be sick, man.
That'd be cool.
Before we wrap up, I have a question I just thought of.
And you had something else too, or no? That was it. We just did it. Never mind.
Yeah, we just did it. Yeah, it's talking about airplanes. Like, are you a window seat, a middle guy, or an aisle guy on the airplane?
Is anybody a middle seat person?
I actually know some people who are middle seat people.
Are they mentally regular?
Well, that's up for debate. But there's people who can say the same about us too on that front. But I'm a strictly window seat guy. Like every time I'd fly up north to work, I need to have like not even just for the sake of looking out the window. I just like close the blind and like sleep on something.
Yeah.
But I don't like the aisle because I always get run over by the cart going up and down the pathway or whatever.
Fair.
And then middle obviously sucks, and then the window seat's where it's at.
I don't know what to say on that. It depends what's going on. If I'm traveling with somebody, ideally we would get like, I'll book the aisle. Like if it's 3 to a side, we'll book the aisle and the window, and then the middle's open because nobody really wants that middle seat. So we'll book like the window and the aisle at a back row because nobody's gonna want to sit in the middle. So you can always trade them for it, and then you can always sit together, or you get your own row and you get an empty seat. So it just depends what's going on.
That's pretty tight. Yeah.
But I like the window if I'm with somebody, but if I'm by myself, usually I would just take the aisle so I can get out and move around. But it really depends on what's going on. I look at those flights every time and like check in, and I'll surf through the seats and be like, I like that one, I like this one, and this one's like empty. So I try to get at least a good seat for one. Sometimes at the front, sometimes like it really depends. It depends. You got to read the plane, man. You got to read the plane and see what's going on. But
there's a big thought process in this. But are you one of those people who like stands up the moment you're allowed to when you land?
Fuck no. I sit.
Those are the worst people, man.
Oh,
the worst people.
Like, where are you gonna go? The fucking door isn't open.
We're all gonna get off the plane at the same time.
Yeah, or the guy that fucking goes by me, that's behind me, and I'm like, you sit the fuck back down.
And people, airplane etiquette is so bad. Like,
I yelled at a guy one time when we came back from like, I don't know if it was Cancun or something, but this guy fucking stands up and blows by us all. I'm like, where the fuck do you gotta go, man? Fuck off and sit back down. Like, I was mad at him. I was like, what are you in such a fucking hurry for? I was fired up. I was very angry.
That's mad. You need to though. People need to be put in their place like that.
Ignorant bastard on a plane. You don't have to be a dick on a plane, okay?
You don't have to be a dick ever.
Man, wait, I have a story for you that I just remembered. I might have to retell it next time, but because I've been trying to think of how to tell it the best way. So we're in Vegas. This was I think I was 20 because it was when I was in school there. I think I wasn't quite old enough to drink legally in Vegas. So it was another one of those times when we're, trying to use my fake IDs and whatever. And I think it was during the NFR. So I don't think that my ID may have expired. So we were trying, like my fake ID expired. So maybe we're trying to just bum free beers wherever we could, but you were at the NFR one time. So I don't know if you know the story of like all the parties that go on during the NFR, like all the,
there's like the gold buckle area and like, there's shit going on everywhere. I never went to any of them, but
so at the South Point on usually the first weekend, there are a lot of committee parties. So there's, Calgary Stampede used to host a party there, and it's open bar, and everybody who's kind of invited shows up, right? But a lot of these ones are open bar, and anybody can show up, or like you have to be invited, but nobody's gonna say who are you? Like, you can't come in here. It's kind of open, kind of open, whatever. So Calgary has a party, Cheyenne has a party, Pendleton has a party. There's all these different parties. But my friend and I, his name's Chase Barnaba. I met him at the college rodeos, and I think it was when I was out west, like when I was in school in Hobbs. He was in school in maybe Tarleton and Stephenville. So he and I met up at the NFR, and we're cruising around the South Point trying to bum free beers and find all these parties. So we ended up in this suite. I remember there was like a Ram rodeo one too that I might have ended up at because I knew somebody or whatever. You're only like bumming around all the free beers, and nobody's going to ask you for an ID at these parties, right? Like they're kind of like off the rules. And if you look like you belong, you can definitely get a free beer that's just in the tub or whatever. So we end up going, we see a sign and there's kind of like rumblings like, oh guys, this is like the Woodward Elks Pro Rodeo Party in Suite 1267 at the South Point. So we're like, we're going to go to this party. And it was like Woodward, Oklahoma. Like neither of us had been there, had no intentions of going to this rodeo or anything. But we hear about this party. So we're like, let's go check it out. So we like get in the elevator, like, you guys coming to the party for Woodward? Like, you bet, we're going for sure. So we go up the elevator. It's in this nice suite. We're kind of feel awkward because it's a pretty small one compared to the like Cheyennes and the Pendletons, like Calgary's, where you can kind of blend in. But this one, we're just like two young guys, like 20 years old. And they're like, you guys thinking to come to the Woodward rodeo this year? Like, for sure. Yeah, we just want to come check it out, see what you guys got on the go. And
all about,
we're like, for sure. So we just check. We just roll in there and roll right in and pick up a couple beers, and we're sitting around kind of like trying to fit in and not be awkward to just that we're there for the free beer and you didn't check our IDs. So we're, trying to just hang out.
Be friendly. Yeah.
And this other guy comes up and did not he could feel our vibe. Like he checked our vibes and he's like, these guys are fucking.
They don't pass the vibe check.
Yeah, these guys are not passing the vibe check. So we're just having a beer and this guy comes up. He's like, you guys weren't invited, were you? And we're like, yeah, for sure. We're looking to come to the rodeo. And he's like, man, you guys got to go with the flow of traffic. You can't just like go up and thumb a beer out of the tub and just like awkwardly go over there by yourselves. Like your vibe's off like that. This is exactly what's going on. He knew us. And so we're like, oh, fuck, we're trying to like,
you caught us.
No, we didn't say that. We're like, no, we're doing this or whatever. And he's like, no, you guys, he's like, no way. You got to go with the flow of traffic. He's like, when you're like going to the buffet, if it's like a free meal at a committee tent, you just got to go with the flow of traffic. If you're trying to bum some free shit, you just like somebody else is going, you just kind of sneak in behind them and just like, you just blend in, right? Or if you're going on the highway, it's like you got to go with the flow of traffic. You can't be flying around people and just.
That's good advice, crazy. Man. That's such good advice.
And he's like, you can't be like at the. He had a whole bunch of different explanations, like going with the flow of traffic. He's like, I forget what they all were now, but he had like a whole bunch of different examples.
A bunch of isms.
He was like, go with the flow of traffic, and we're like. We kind of like got to be like, like you're right, man. Like
his body is like, we need to go with the flow.
Like, and he's like, you guys are like obviously underage too. So like, if somebody else is going to get a beer, you got to like blend in and just go with the flow of traffic. Like his whole thing was just going with the flow of traffic. Yeah. So this was the whole thing, and like, I don't know. He's like, man, if you guys are like, if you get in a jam and you're smuggling drugs and they're in your car, you can't stick out. You got to go with the flow of traffic. He just had, so we had all these different explanations and everything, and we're like, okay. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, man, like, okay, we get it. Like, go with the flow. Like, what else are you gonna tell us now? Like, there's so many different fucking ideas of how this week can go, and we're kind of getting annoyed. And we're like, okay, fuck, we got our beer. We're just gonna leave now. Like, maybe we'll grab another one before we go. but then we ask him, we're like, so what's your role on the committee here? He's like, oh, I wasn't invited either.
No way. That's awesome. That's so funny. So he was on the same shit you guys are on. That's good. That's a good, man. Nice delivery there. That's awesome. That's why he knows how to go with the flow of traffic. Right?
So I thought
you ever figure out who he was? Was he like
he just drifted off into the night after that. We just lost him.
It's like it's kind of like The Gambler, like a storyline.
That could be a song, right? Or something.
You got to go with the flow of traffic. Yeah, talk to Brett Kissel. We got a song for you.
Shit. Okay, well, we'll leave you with that. Thanks for listening. This has been episode 87 to Cowboy Shit with Ted and Wasey. Thanks for playing along, Wace. Appreciate it. Thanks, Randy Bernard.
Don't forget, though.
Yeah, buy the merch.
Go with the flow of traffic.
Yeah, go with the flow of traffic. All the way to cowboyshit.ca. Get your new merch. Thanks again, like I said, Randy Bernard for being on the show today. Thanks to Sean Morton for the editing, Covey Moore for taking the photos at the photo shoot, Storm Defoe, graphics, all the badass stuff, the website. Wasey, thank you the most. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you too, brother.
See you guys next time.